Meghan Markle, love her or hate her. One thing is undeniable, she's never been far from the headlines. But here's the real question. After all the drama, the controversies, and the royal fallout, why is Meghan suddenly trying to turn back time? Why is she digging up her 2014 self, the time before the palace scandals and global scrutiny, and asking the world to forget what's happened since? In this video, we're diving deep into Meghan's latest move, a nostalgic return to her former self, back when the TIG was her brand, and everything seems so much simpler. But is this just another attempt to whitewash the past? Or is Meghan really just trying to reclaim a piece of the life she's lost? What does it mean when someone so determined to reinvent herself looks back to a time when she was still building her career and reputation? Stick with me as we break down the strategy behind Meghan's back-to-basics approach. We'll analyze why she's looking to the past to fix her future, and whether the public will buy it this time. So, grab a seat, because what's coming up might surprise you. Don't forget to hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and of course, subscribe, because we're about to uncover the real story behind the headlines. What is Meghan Markle really up to? After years of public scrutiny, media battles, and a very public exit from royal duties, it seems she's trying something new. Or is it really new, or just a return to something old? Recently, Meghan has chosen to look back at a time when her life seemed simpler. Before the royal drama, before the Oprah interview, and even before the Megxit that shook the world. She's revisiting her old lifestyle blog, The TIG, and attempting to paint a picture of herself from 2014, a time when she was seen as a rising star in Hollywood, a young actress with dreams and ambitions. But here's the big question, why now? Why is she suddenly pushing this 2014 persona back into the spotlight after everything that has happened since then? Is this an attempt to undo the damage? Or is it a desperate attempt to recapture a time when she was liked, admired, and free from the intense public pressure she faces now? Let's take a step back and really think about this. In 2014, Meghan Markle was the perfect example of the American dream. She was working on Suits, her career was on the rise, and she was a role model for many women, especially in the entertainment industry. She wasn't a princess. She wasn't dealing with international scandals. And most importantly, she wasn't tied to a family with centuries of history and expectations. She was just a woman trying to make it in the world. And for many, she was relatable. But as we all know, things changed fast. Fast forward to 2025, and Meghan is no longer the girl we saw back in 2014. The fairy tale romance with Prince Harry. Her outspoken stance on issues and the fallout from stepping away from royal duties have altered how the public perceives her. Now, Meghan faces a very different reality. She's no longer just an actress. She's a highly controversial figure, the target of harsh criticism, and the subject of endless media debates. Here's the thing. Meghan's return to the TIG doesn't seem like a simple nostalgia trip. It's not just about reliving the good old days. No, this is a calculated move. A strategy to rebuild her image and perhaps erase some of the more controversial moments that have defined her in recent years. But can that really work? Can she simply undo the damage of the last few years by asking us to look back at a version of her that no longer exists? Let's dive into the details. The idea of revisiting the past, of looking back at a time when everything seemed more innocent, is not new. Many people in public life have tried to do this when faced with scandal or criticism. But in Meghan's case, it's particularly interesting because of how much has changed between then and now. Back in 2014, Meghan was a relatively unknown actress with a growing social media following, but she wasn't a global figure. She wasn't embroiled in public controversies, and she certainly wasn't the subject of worldwide media scrutiny. Her life was on her own terms, and it looked like she was going places. So, why try to recapture that now? Is it because she realizes that the current version of Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, the outspoken critic of the monarchy, has become so divisive that people no longer see her as the woman she once was? Could it be that she's trying to remind us of who she was before everything changed? Or is she hoping that by embracing the past, she can somehow rewrite the story of her life, burying the parts that don't fit the narrative she wants to tell? Now, let's not forget that this isn't just a personal journey for Meghan. This is a public one, and that's where the real issue lies. In 2025, the internet never forgets. Those past moments are still out there, accessible to anyone with a keyboard. Meghan can't simply wish away her past actions, the things she's said, or the relationships she's burned. The truth is, no matter how much she wants to go back to 2014, she's still carrying the weight of her more recent decisions. And that's where the tension lies between the woman she was and the woman she's become. So, what's the end game here? Can Meghan really use this return to 2014 strategy to rebuild her image? Or will it only highlight the chasm between who she once was and who she is now? And what about her critics? How will they respond? Will they see this as a clever reinvention? Or will it come across as a shallow attempt to erase the past? It's a question worth asking, and one I'm sure many of you are thinking about as well, but I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Meghan's latest move is a genuine attempt to reclaim some of the love and admiration she once had? Or is it just a desperate effort to rewrite history? What does this say about her current state of mind? And what do you think it means for her future? Now, let's dig deeper into Meghan Markle's complex journey, which has shifted drastically from the woman she once was to the controversial figure she is today. In this part, we need to ask, how did Meghan go from being a beloved figure to one who is constantly in the crosshairs of the media and public scrutiny? If we take a look back at Meghan's early years, especially before she became a duchess, there was a certain charm to her. She wasn't just an actress. She was a relatable woman who built her career from the ground up. She was someone who talked about empowerment, equality, and breaking barriers for women. Her lifestyle blog, The Tig, had a distinct, down-to-earth appeal, a space where Meghan shared her views on life, fashion, and even wellness. It was all very accessible. People saw Meghan as someone they could connect with, someone who was one of us. But then, everything changed. Meghan's relationship with Prince Harry catapulted her into a level of fame and scrutiny she'd never experienced before. She was no longer just an actress on a popular TV show. She was now a royal, a title that brought with it expectations, rules, and a world of pressure that most of us can't even begin to comprehend. And with this new role came a much higher level of visibility. Every word, every action, every look was scrutinized by the public and the media. Here's where it gets interesting. As Meghan's life became more public, her personal brand began to clash with her royal duties. The woman who had once been seen as an advocate for women's rights and self-expression seemed to struggle with the constraints of royal life. She and Harry were often criticized for their decisions, such as stepping back from their royal roles, moving to the United States, and speaking out on controversial issues. Each of these moves seemed to widen the divide between her and the public that once adored her. But Meghan, ever the savvy public figure, doubled down. She and Harry's interviews, especially with Oprah, became defining moments. Meghan spoke about feeling trapped, isolated, and unsupported within the royal family, painting a picture of someone who was a victim of circumstance, and the world listened. Yet, this only fueled the ongoing debate. Was Meghan telling the truth? Or was she using her story to further her own narrative? Let's take a moment to reflect on the events that have shaped Meghan's image over the past few years. We saw her taking on the media with vigor, accusing them of racism and spreading false narratives. Then came the publicized struggles with her father, her family, and the public's expectations. Meghan had always been someone who shared her personal life openly, but now, her openness seemed to stir more anger than empathy. Critics argued that she was playing the victim card, and some even accused her of using her struggles to gain sympathy and attention. So, what's really going on here? Is Meghan a misunderstood woman fighting for her freedom and identity? Or is she, as some critics argue, using her past to manipulate the public and avoid taking responsibility for her actions? It's a complicated question with no easy answer. In history, we've seen similar stories unfold. There are many figures who, after reaching the heights of fame, faced immense public backlash. Some used their past to rebuild their image, while others were swallowed by the weight of their own choices. The difference here, of course, is that Meghan isn't just a celebrity. She's a member of the royal family, and that carries an entirely different weight of expectation and judgment. Her every move is magnified, her every word dissected. But let's also consider the flip side. There are those who argue that Meghan's outspokenness is her greatest strength. She is seen by some as a modern feminist, a woman who refuses to be controlled by the confines of tradition. Meghan has become a symbol of empowerment for many, especially young women who see her as someone who took a stand and refused to conform to royal expectations. In this light, Meghan isn't just reclaiming her past. She's trying to shape her future on her own terms. She's making it clear that she's not going to be silenced or held back by public opinion. So, what does this all mean for her legacy? Can Meghan ever go back to the woman she was before the royal spotlight? Is it possible for her to regain the public's trust? Or has the damage been done? And perhaps more importantly, does she even want to go back? Or is she fully embracing the woman she has become? Flaws, controversies, and all? Now, let's take a deeper look at the complexity of Meghan Markle's actions and what it truly means for her public image and her future. With all that's happened over the past few years, it begs the question, is Meghan truly evolving? Or is she simply rebranding her narrative to make it more palatable to the public? We know that Meghan has faced an onslaught of criticism since stepping into the royal spotlight. But is this criticism justified? Or has she become a scapegoat for a much bigger issue? Meghan's bold moves, whether it's stepping away from royal duties or her candid interviews, have sparked intense debate. Some applaud her for breaking free from the constraints of the royal family, while others accuse her of making reckless decisions that damage the reputation of the monarchy. Looking at her journey, one thing stands out: Meghan's unwillingness to be silenced. She has consistently voiced her opinions on social justice, mental health, and the challenges she's faced as a woman of color in the royal family. She's positioned herself as an advocate for change, for breaking down barriers. But how much of this is genuine? And how much is part of her effort to reshape the public's perception of her? Is she really fighting for equality? Or is she simply trying to stay relevant in a world that's moved on from the fairy tale narrative she once embraced? If we examine the history of public figures who have faced intense scrutiny, we can find many parallels. There's a long line of individuals who, when confronted with controversy, have attempted to regain control by reinventing themselves. Some of them succeeded, while others found that no matter how hard they tried, the past was always there to haunt them. Meghan's situation is unique, though. As a member of the royal family, her actions are constantly under a microscope. But unlike most royals, she's chosen to confront the media head-on, a move that has both helped and hindered her. But let's step back for a moment. Meghan isn't just dealing with the public's reaction, she's also facing internal challenges. Her relationship with her family, both her biological family and the royal family, has been strained to say the least. Meghan's decision to distance herself from her father, her strained relationship with her half-sister, and her public clashes with the royal family have all added fuel to the fire. At the same time, Meghan's critics point out that she's quick to blame others for her struggles, whether it's the monarchy or the media. But is this fair? Are we holding Meghan to a higher standard simply because of her connection to the royal family? Or are we ignoring the fact that, like many of us, she is just trying to navigate a complicated and often unforgiving world? And then there's the question of her marriage to Prince Harry. The two have been through an incredible amount of scrutiny, from their decision to step away from royal duties to the ongoing fallout from their interviews. Some view their relationship as a genuine love story, a couple standing together against the odds. Others see it as a calculated move, a way for Meghan to elevate her status and secure her place in the media spotlight. But what does the public really think? How much of their marriage is real? And how much of it is part of a larger strategy? Now, I can already hear some of you asking, but doesn't Meghan have a right to live her life as she chooses? Absolutely. She has every right to pursue her dreams, speak her mind, and challenge the status quo. The question, however, is whether her decisions are making her a more admirable figure, or if they are driving a wedge between her and the public. In the past, we've seen celebrities, politicians, and even royalty navigate similar challenges. Many have attempted to reinvent themselves after making controversial choices. Should we hold her to a different standard simply because of her royal connections? So, here we are, a woman who is trying to regain control over her narrative, to rebuild her image, and to make sense of a world that's constantly judging her. But is it working? Can Meghan ever truly rewrite her story? Or is she simply running in circles, unable to escape the shadow of her past? Now, as we reach the final part of this deep dive into Meghan Markle's life and legacy, we need to ask ourselves, what's next for her? Can she ever move beyond the constant media attention and the scandals that have followed her? Or has she already charted a course that will forever keep her in the public eye, but not necessarily in the way she wants? One of the most fascinating aspects of Meghan's journey is the question of her future. She's no longer just a former royal. She's become an icon in her own right. Or is it one that she's simply accepting because there's no turning back now? For all the criticism she's faced, Meghan has managed to carve out a niche for herself. She's a successful businesswoman, a mother, and a vocal advocate for social justice. She's shown time and again that she's willing to speak up about what she believes in, even when it's not popular. But the question remains, is her voice as powerful as she thinks it is? Or is it just another form of self-promotion, an attempt to maintain relevance in a world that's moved on from the royal family? Let's not forget that there's a real divide when it comes to Meghan. Some see her as a trailblazer, a woman who's taken control of her own narrative and built a life on her own terms. Others view her as a deeply flawed individual who uses her status to manipulate the public and the media. And this divide only seems to be growing. There are those who believe that Meghan's attempts to redefine herself will ultimately lead to her success. After all, she's a woman who's faced unimaginable pressure and still managed to push forward. Then there are others who think she's lost touch with reality, that her desire to be both a royal and a rebel is simply unsustainable. Let's think about this in a historical context. There have been countless figures throughout history who, much like Meghan, have tried to forge their own path after being thrust into the spotlight. Some succeeded, others faltered. One notable example is Princess Diana. She, too, tried to navigate a complicated public life, balancing her role within the royal family with her desire to make a difference in the world. But despite her best effort, Diana was forever marked by the chaos and drama of her personal life. Meghan, in many ways, is on a similar trajectory. She wants to be both a royal and a free spirit, to stand for something bigger than herself, but also to live a life that's true to her. But can she really have both? Or is this just a fantasy she's trying to make a reality? At this point, Meghan is at a crossroads. The life she's chosen, one of constant media attention, public scrutiny, and constant reinvention, is both a blessing and a curse. And try to find some peace away from the spotlight? I want to ask you, the audience, what you think about Meghan's future. Do you believe she can find the balance she's looking for? Or is she doomed to be trapped by the very fame and influence she once sought? Will her next moves bring her the success she's hoping for? Or will they only lead to more controversy? And most importantly, what do you think is the best course of action for her? Is it time for her to embrace a quieter life? Or does she still have something important to offer the world? As we wrap up today's discussion on Meghan Markle's journey and the challenges she's faced, it's clear that her story is far from straightforward. She's a figure caught between the past and the present, between the woman she once was and the one she is trying to become. Whether you see her as a trailblazer who's breaking free from tradition or a woman struggling to rewrite her narrative, one thing remains certain: the world is watching. Her every move is analyzed, her every decision scrutinized. So, what does the future hold for Meghan Markle? Can she ever truly reclaim her past? Or is she forever shaped by the choices she's made in the spotlight? Will she continue to push forward in her quest to redefine herself? Or is it time to step back and find peace away from the public eye? I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think Meghan's next move should be? Is she heading in the right direction? Or is she still lost in the chaos of her public image? Share your opinions in the comments. Let's get a conversation going. If you're interested in more discussions on the royal family, the challenges faced by Meghan and others, and the latest updates, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Kate Middleton and the Queen. We've got more deep dives and exclusive insights coming your way. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button now and be part of the conversation.